particular build of Delver, as he is going to be taking a mulligan. So I lied. I think Phimus is going to win.
That's all it takes is
Yep,
one mulligan?
That's it. Yeah.
You're just off it?
Yeah, mulliganing is lame and leads to losses.
Well, Phimus, in fairness, is on the play of this game, and I think game one is much better for him than the post-board games. So I think he's got a really good shot in game one.
All right. They've both already taken one mulligan, so this might be Jacob's second mulligan then? How do you feel now? Jacob's on 5.
Pretty rough.
What do you think about that? What if he draws like a Taxian probe?
Well, he'll still have mulligan to 5, so I don't really know how that changes things. You see him keep after drawing 2 cards. I believe it was a cantrip and a land.
Yeah, snap it off.
Yeah.
He's just keeping the world. There's a creeping tar pit. We're underway in the finals.
Ooh.
Getting hot in here.
First draw step is Price of Progress.
And a Delver Secrets. Whoa. Look at you go. Delver Secrets.
A lot of good tools for a 5-card hand.
Uh-oh, Baleful Strix. Inquisition of Kozilek. A Brainstorm. Couple of fetch lands. Phimus has a nice mulligan.
Great. Abrupt Decay, Brainstorm, Baleful Strix.
Yeah, that's a good hand.
Inquisition, too, is going to be able to tag that Price of Progress at some point if he's feeling like it.
It's all about sequencing at this point, how he wants to go about doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Does he want to start off by brainstorming, get some more options first? Does he just want to abrupt decay and kill something? Because you don't really want to take a bunch of extra damage against this deck.
Yep. And deck lists are public in the finals, so he knows he doesn't have to play around Days, for example, which is a card that appears in some Red Blue Delver lists.
Brainstorm draws a Verdant Catacombs, the Thoughtseize, and a Jace the Mind Sculptor. So you got to put 2 back, of course. He can't make it a perfect Brainstorm since he has plenty of fetch lands to choose from. But this Brainstorm kind of lays the foundation for the rest of the game's going to go.
Yeah, and right now I believe what he's trying to determine is whether or not he wants to play the game to try to set up Jace, or he wants to ignore that and play a 1-for-1 trading game.
2 cards back. Brainstorm resolves. There's your Delta. Make it a perfect one. Phimus go down to 19.
And I imagine because he sequenced it this way that he's planning on playing Inquisition this turn. Could have just cast Abrupt Decay, but took a good spot to resolve a Juicy Brainstorm and really set the path for the rest of the game.
Yeah. Unsurprisingly, Phimus' deck does not have any basics in it. So he's off to a card like Blood Moon, which obviously isn't going to show up here for Kory, but Price of Progress is the big one. But he knows that that's in Kory's deck, so there's Inquisition. And there's the grip. Chain, Force, Pop, and a Misty Rainforest.
And Jacob on 5 cards in an honest matchup, Force of Will's about as bad as it gets.
I agree. Wouldn't be surprised if he just bores us out in the next game.
Oh, we'll get to that in a moment.
Okay, I know where you're going with that. I'm excited.
Yeah. I agree. I think we're going to see those hit the bench as well.
I think Inquisition probably just takes Pop. I think that's the best card. Is the Price of Progress. Maybe it just hits Chain. All right.
Yeah, I think he's happy if Jacob spends his whole turn playing Price of Progress next turn, and he can Thoughtseize away the price later.
Delver misses.
But the Chain Lightning allows him to kill the Baleful Strix in Phimus' hand, which might make Phimus' turn less efficient.
All Kory can do is just draw and pass the turn back. Liliana the Veil, the draw here for Phimus.
I mean, he has a really good path here. He can remove Price of Progress. He can Abrupt Decay the Delver and then start taking over the game with his more powerful effects, or just with beating down with Creeping Tar Pit.
Thoughtseize. Maybe a response? Maybe not. Let's see. Yeah, we gotta sacrifice the old Misty. See if you want the basic or non-basic here. You thought about getting Volcanic right away. It might be going for basic island now.
I think I like getting the Volcanic here, as you know that there are some Wastelands in Phimus' deck. This is an issue that I have with the Blue-Red Delver mana base, is that, you know, you want to get Mountain Island to play around Wasteland, but you have both Bolt, Chain Lightning, and Brainstorm, Ponder, Delver, etc. So you actually can't get two different basic lands in a lot of scenarios, because it makes it so you can't chain together the spells the way you want to all the time.
Your mana's pretty stretched. Yeah, he's going to guess Price of Progress for 4. 4 to Phimus, 2 to Jacob Kory. It's symmetrical effect. Now there is a Snapcaster Mage and a Force of Will. Choose wisely. There goes Snappy.
Yep. Phimus does not care about this Force of Will. And now he doesn't even need to Abrupt Decay. He can actually just cast Baleful Strix, for example.
Mm-hmm. Just going to pass the turn back. A little flip. Maybe not. In for 1. Phimus will take 1 from the fetch, and I'm going to go down to 11.
You can tell just by the expression on Jacob's face, he knows this is not the way that he wants the game paced.
Not at all. Not at all. Obviously, mulligan to 5 makes things very difficult, but yeah, he doesn't want to be anywhere near this. He also, in this matchup, does not want to draw Forcible at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the first card set out. Possibly Spell Pierce, although Spell Pierce is pretty good against Planeswalkers.
There's Decay. Takes care of the Delver. There is a Misty Rainforest. Pass the turn back over to Phimus, who draws Liliana the Veil. Does he want to cast that and start going after the hands?
Well, he knows the coast is clear. Again, he's aware the last card in Jacob's hand is Force of Will, so.
He could go Strixie. That's what he's going to do. Draws an Underground Sea. Needs to be careful with how many lands he plays.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there is still Price of Progress and Snapcaster Mage in Jacob's deck, so.
Draw a card. There's a Jace. Not bad.
Jace very good here as the major thing that Phimus needs to do is just control Jacob's draw.
3 mana. It's going to be a Lily. Yep. Just going to tick up. Time to discard. Yeah, and you see Kory's going to discard Forcible so fast, yeah.
Yeah.
Take a draw.
And has he drawn back-to-back bolts?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, this game is starting to get a little hairy for Phimus.
Yeah, if I'm Jacob Kory, those bolts are going upstairs.
Yeah, for sure.
Those aren't going anywhere near that Liliana the Veil. I don't care about that card. Yeah, Chain Lightning. Oh, he's going to go towards the Planeswalker. I'm surprised. I'm really surprised by that play.
Yeah, I think I'm not a big fan of this sequence here from Jacob. I think this leaves him in a scenario where he, even if just facing down Creeping Tar Pit and Baleful Strix from this spot is going to be challenging with him on no hand. And if Phimus has another Planeswalker, it's just a disaster.
Yeah, I don't feel like he's giving himself the best chance to go runner, which I think is what he
Yeah.
needs to do to win. Spell Pierce is the top card of his deck. I think in that situation, he has to just chain and bolt Phimus, put him to 5. Maybe he rips off a Snapcaster Mage and is able to Snapcast a bolt, something like that.
Yeah, or find the last Price of Progress in
Yeah.
his deck, and then it's just game over.
Yeah, because now with Jace showing up, and Jace would have been a problem regardless, but now just going runner is just so hard.
Yeah.
There's a bolt. Phimus taking a look at that third lightning bolt.
I mean, the critical thing here about Lightning Bolt is that if Jacob is allowed to cast it, it means that now Price of Progress becomes lethal.
Mm-hmm. There's True Near Nemesis. Going to speed things up a little bit here. Spell Pierce. Yeah, you're not going to counter that. Coil draw a card. There's Chain Lightning. Going upstairs. Put you down to 8. Somehow he needs a draw. Price of Progress. With Jace in the way. There's a Wasteland. That makes it tough.
Yeah, Wasteland is actually a really good draw here for Phimus as he can play the Wasteland, leave it up, and Wasteland his own non-basic land in response.
He Wastelanded himself. Or he Wastelanded Kory. Then he attacks her a bunch. There's a Misty. Yeah, and that's it. Okay. So, Phimus Pan's going to win game number 1 here with his bug control deck, which looked very aggressive that go-around. Jacob Kory did mulligan at 5, but sometimes that's just how things go. So we're going to bring it back to the booth here as it is trivia time one more time. I've got the final question of the night. That means you've got the final rules explanation of the night.
Cedric is going to ask you a question. You will tweet the answer to that at SCG Live, hashtag SCG Premium. Of the correct answers, one will be selected at random, and that person will receive 12 free months of Star City Games Premium. It is about accuracy, not speed, so don't worry about being the first one to submit an answer. Just answer relatively quickly and accurately.
Next weekend, Patrick, we're going to be doing an invitational.
We are. The first one of 2014.
Yeah, the conclusion of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what everyone's doing right now. They're getting their Twitters open and type Charlotte, which is where we're going to be. But that's not the question, because that's what we always do.
Okay.
So, For all of you cheaters out there, busted.
You
The
got
real
busted.
question
You're caught.
is who's going to be doing coverage with Patrick and I next weekend? Name the third member of the group with Patrick and myself. You're getting to Charlotte early. I'm getting to Charlotte on
Real
Thursday
early.
morning.
I mean, I'm getting on an airplane in 7 hours, so
That's fine. You'll be fine.
getting there pretty early.
I'll be there Thursday, and our third member of the cast will get there Thursday evening. You name that person, hashtag the answer, hashtag SCG Premium. Make sure you're following at SCG Live. Again, we will draw and announce the winner at the conclusion of our finals here.
And we are going to be a stickler for spelling. You cannot.
Smart.
You got to spell this one correctly.
What you could do is you could just type in his Twitter name and just blow up his Twitter, which is attached to his phone to make his life miserable.
Yep.
I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying it's something you could do.
Especially since it's, past 2 o'clock in the morning where he is, so he's likely to be asleep.
Like where your head's at.
And he needs to go to work tomorrow,
He
so
does,
go for it.
if you know who it is.
Don't tell him I told you, but go for it.
Take a look back to the match here. Sideboards. We'll start on Jacob Kory's side.
So his plan in this matchup is to become more of a burn deck. You're going to see him remove his Force of Wills from his deck, possibly other permission spells as well, to bring in the 4 copies of Lava Spike. That's why they're in the sideboard, even though they look unorthodox. He does have the option to bring in the Red Elemental Blast and the Pyroblast, as, of course, Phimus has a number of blue cards, including Jason the Mind Sculptor and True Name Nemesis, but I'm not sure that Jacob's going to want to try to fight on that front. He might just be trying to become a non-interactive burn deck. And you're definitely going to see the 3rd copy of Price of Progress come in, as it's very good against Phimus' control deck with all non-basic lands. 2 copies of Sulfuric Vortex, another burn card to supplement that strategy. It does run into the jaws of Abrupt Decay, so it's possible that Jacob doesn't want to bring in here, but depending on how far he wants to go down the road of converting into a burn deck, you might see it here as well.
1 Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Phyrexian Invokers, a Dread of Night, Force of Will, 2 Legendary Charms, 3 Spell Pierce, a Surgical Extraction, 2 Minotaur, 1 Marsh Casualties, and the very obvious inclusion of Umezawa's Jite. A lot of cards here are pretty mediocre, honestly. Force of Will I don't particularly love from Phimus' deck against this deck, especially when they're just boarding in to be a burn deck. Hypnotoric's actually pretty sweet, but some of these removal spells, or I guess removal isn't the correct term, but Marsh Casualties, Golgari Charm, and Dreaded Knight are not really going to be very good in this matchup.
Yeah, and I know that some people feel that they should be leaving in, when they're playing decks like Phimus's, they should be leaving in Force of Will against Price of Progress because that card is so threatening.
Mhm.
They often feel like they have the rest of the deck covered, but that piece can steal games. And it almost stole that game, even though Jacob was on a mulligan to 5, and Phimus' start was excellent.
We're underway. Game 2, Delver of Secrets off of Basic Island. Let's do this.
And Phimus not with a lot of ways to interact with the board on turn 1. He can play Deathrite Shaman or a discard spell, but Jacob might get in for a couple points.
Jacob tosses it over, shows him a Ponder, smash the Smithereens. Reason for that, of course, is Umezawa's Jite also takes care of Baleful Strix. And then you've got a Goblin Guide, and then 2 copies of Misty Rainforest.
I think Smash the Smithereens is a little too aggressive to be sideboarding in against a deck with a lot of discard. He can take it when it's going to be good and strand it when it's going to be bad.
Yeah, but, on the flip side of things, too, don't forget that, that's cards you can actually highly brainstorm for blowouts or leave on top of the Ponder.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a cost to having it in your deck, as now when we see it with Inquisition, it's just like, you can play around that appropriately.
Yeah.
So, Phimus really giving this a lot of thought on what card he wants to take with Inquisition. Feels like forever since we've seen Inquisition. Been a lot of Thoughtseizes and Hymns running around, but not so many Inquisitions.
Yeah, and Phimus has to be a little bit more concerned about his life total because his deck's on the slower side.
Mm-hmm. There goes Goblin Guide. Get that thing out of here. Can we flip a Delver one time? Nope. Never ever.
Although it's hard to be upset with drawing a Snapcaster Mage there.
I agree. Misty comes into play. Ponder will ensure that Delver will flip next turn, assuming it's still around. There's a Bolt, there's a Ponder. Okay, that's a pretty good Ponder.
Yeah. I'm sure Jacob is happy to keep this.
Yeah. You see him put a Ponder on top.
Yeah, and this is the challenging sequence of what does he want to show versus what does he want to make sure he has access to next turn versus what does he want to hide from discard.
Yeah.
So all of Jacob's ponders are going to be quite complicated.
Attack for 1. Gotta put Phimus down to 19. Phimus will take a draw. It's a True Name Nemesis. That's a Misty Rainforest. That's a pass of the turn. Does not play Baleful Strix because Smash of the Smithereens is hanging out. Lightning Bolt will be revealed to Delver's Secrets. No Insectile Aberration is shown up to the party. That's a Misty. This is an attack for 3. Phimus gonna take 1, go down to 18. See if he has an Abrupt Decay for this.
Yeah, I think Jacob would actually be surprised if this Delver were to survive here. We'll find out momentarily. And Phimus is setting up a really good path to victory now that he has that True Name Nemesis in hand as well.
Yep, that's a Decay. Get that thing out of here. Kory going to sacrifice that Misty Rainforest. He'll go down to 19. Consult his hand very quickly here, but it's oftentimes against this deck, after sideboard, especially when you're playing Vivid Delver, your plan is just burn, burn, burn all day long.
Yeah, but Phimus has done a pretty good job of protecting himself thus far with Inquisition, Insight of Thoughtseize, taking Goblin Guide, Abrupt Decay on the Delver, at a comfortable 18 life.
Yeah, just need 6 bolts, man. That's all.
Or, like 1 Price of Progress.
There's Sulfury Vortex. That'll add up to it. Volcanic Island and a mountain.
So Jacob has done some really substantial sideboarding as beyond the Lava Spikes we can almost be certain are in the deck. We've seen Sulfuric Vortex and Smash the Smithereens, which were 2 cards I consider to be on the fringe of sideboardable here.
He's going to keep with Ponder, just pass the turn back. Phimus going to untap, take a draw. It's a True Name Nemesis. Is it time to tap out for that thing? Nope, it's time for Baleful Strix instead. It's not just a bird. It's an artifact bird.
This is pretty risky business, running this Strix out here.
I believe he's going to get blown into smithereens.
Yeah.
I mean, he could just be inducing, like if he has a GT or whatever. Bolt's going to go upstairs, down to 15. 5 bolts to go.
Smash the Smithereens can knock it down to 4.
Vortex? Alright. Let's get racing, shall we?
If Phimus doesn't have Abrupt Decay, this will be rough.
Yeah. He's going to go down to 14, and then Vortex is going to put him down to 12. 4 bolts to go.
And probably actually quite a bit fewer than that, as the Vortex damage is going to add up.
Less than 4 bolts to go.
And you can see that this plan of attack is much harder for Phimus to interact with than the counterspell strategy that Jacob has access to game 1.
Nah, he's just going upstairs. Okay, there's Spell Pierce, so more than 4 bolts to go. I dismember the draw. Ugh. I suppose I understand why that's in his deck still after sideboard, but it's just kind of yucky.
Yep.
There's a True Name. Kory, deep breath. He knows he's in some trouble. He's going to sacrifice this. He knew the top card was stacked, so.
In fairness, he does have a lot of time. That's one thing that he's got working for him right now.
Yeah, it can't ever feel too easy, though.
Of course, Umezawa's Jitte is an incredibly dangerous draw at this stage of the game. There's a couple others, Jace the Mind Sculptor, but assuming he's just racing against True Name Nemesis, a lot of Jacob's draws are still quite good.
Yeah.
And Price of Progress is still a huge threat.
All right, so Shuffle Upagus has not drawn yet. Scalding Tarn, I believe, was the draw. Not positive there, though.
And Jacob has been sitting on the Snapcaster for a while. He did have an option on turn 3, for example, for simply Snapcaster Pondering. It makes me wonder if he's trying to set up something big here.
Gonna take a look at the graveyard. See some bolts, ponder, some other stuff down there. Looks like it's gonna be a ponder, or maybe. He's gonna play Scalding Tarn first. Now he's gonna cast a ponder. So, 1 is a Lava Spike, 2 is a Vortex, 3 is a Scalding Tarn.
That's a gentleman's ponder right there.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
And right now, I think that it's really important for,
Taste it.
I was
3.
going to say, really important for Jacob to use that Smash to Smithereens, as it's possible he'll fall short by just a couple of points of damage. And if he goes for that Smash to Smithereens while Phimus has mana untapped, and Phimus is able to, say, Abrupt Decay his Baleful Strix in response.
It's a nightmare.
A nightmare. I know that he's concerned about Umezawa's GT. He wants to protect himself from that, but at this point, the race is against insufficient total resources.
To be fair, if he wanted to protect himself from his Vegeta, he just put his shields down from that too.
Yeah.
By Lava Spiking, because he could have just held the Lava Spike or put it on top of his deck, sequence the turn differently, what have you. He's opened himself to getting clocked by a GT, and if it hits just once, that's really all it takes.
Yeah, I think that Jacob is just loath to shuffle his deck because he also wants to play the Sulfuric Vortex next turn.
In for 3. Phimus going to slow down the beatdowns a little bit. Follow-up is a Deathrite Shaman and a Phyrexian Revoker. So pass the turn back to not send in with the Strix. We'll see what Revoker's naming here in just a second.
I mean, I think the only thing that it can name in Jacob's deck is Grim Lavamancer.
Okay. And that was the name. There's the Vortex. Sacrifice this. Kory going to go down to 13. See what land he wants to search for with the Tarn.
If he can go get a mountain, that's ideal here, as a big part of his out here is his Price of Progress, and he would rather that be a win than a draw. And the Vortex does a lot of good work for him. Obviously, it's a burn spell that's hard for Phimus to interact with. It also means that he no longer has to worry about Deathrite Shaman the same way. Umezawa's Jitte is much less threatening. But of course, Jacob has to be concerned with his own life total here, as Phimus is starting to apply a lot of pressure.
Well, it's Vortex time. So there that is. Here's a Smash Smithereens right now. Get rid of the Revoker.
And I like casting it here. He's just got to cast it.
Is an attack good at all? Yeah, I think it attacks it. We get something off the table. We're in like a pretty big racing situation. Phimus can't afford to take 2.
Yep.
And with Deathrite Shaman's life gain ability off because of Vortex, yeah, he has to block.
Yeah, I like casting the Snapcaster Mageon for something, because Phimus has Liliana the Veil in his deck. So you don't know if you're just not going to get another shot to do something productive.
So Vortex should put Phimus down to 6.
And he is exposed. I mean, Price of Progress comes off the top here. I don't believe there's anything he can do. He's got a Hand of Dismember, Creeping Tar Pit, some more creatures.
Yeah, just some rubbish.
Yeah. And all this is so hairy, you know? Like, he has to even worry about, do I need to leave a creature back on defense? Because if Jacob rips Goblin Guy, then all of a sudden, if I don't have a blocker back, I go to 4, then 2 from the Vortex.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of harrowing draws here.
And there's that. It's not. There's a Deathrite Shaman.
Phimus has set up lethal on the next turn,
Yeah,
so here we go.
That was fast. Kory going to go to 8. Draw.
Gives a knock.
Mountain. That is it. Phimus Pan, Star City Games Legacy Open Champion with Bug Control.
And then Jacob flips over the next card, his Price of Progress.
Isn't it always?
A good sweat.
Yeah.
Definitely a good sweat.
Isn't it always the next card? Bug Control. It's not Bug Delver. It's not Charlotte's Bug, but it's that color combination nonetheless. It looks like this thing, no matter how you build it, can't be stopped, dude.
No Tarmogoyfs.
Yeah.
No Delver of Secrets.
Yep.
None of the usual suspects here.
Just true game nemesis.
Yep.
That's it.
Baleful Strix.
Yeah, normally when you see Baleful Strix, you think of that, think about Jerry Thompson's Charlotte's Agent, Charlotte's Bug deck, whatever you want to call it. Baleful Strix in combination with Charlotte's Agent, Cascade in that, draw a card, problematic